Please welcome Abe Donez from Durham Technical Community College. Jacquelyn Thompson from Florida State College at Jacksonville. Devin Purgason from Forsyth Technical Community College. Kristina Fowler from RIT Certified. And Linnell Hahn from Southeast Missouri State University.
All right, we're going to go ahead with the first sort of kicking this off. So just to sort of get us started, I'd love real quick in just a few sentences for each one of you to share one highlight of something that using Element451 has brought you success at your institution. All right, you go. Okay.
I think one of the biggest highlights for me in my role as Executive Director of Marketing has been creating personalized emails and text messages that automatically flow when students fill out a form on our digital ads. So,
Someone else?
I would say that probably one of the key big ticket wins that we had from the very beginning was creating a place for all of our communication. So the student isn't, telling their story again and again. No matter what staff member is interacting with the student, they can look and see the last conversation that we had with the student, the fact that they received this email and this is what it said. All of that kind of breaking down silos opportunity.
I'm going to take a different approach because we're currently going through an implementation. But what I've appreciated about engaging with the team at Element is the seriousness behind when you come and propose an idea and the investment that they make in taking that idea to the next level. One of the things that I consistently struggle with from a technological perspective, and I have an IT background, my bachelor's degree is in engineering, is the lack of technology in order to make things more efficient and more productive, to reduce the burden on the human resources and our human capital that we possess. And so engaging with Element, they really not only took me seriously, but they came to the college and sat with a team of employees who do the work on a day in and day out basis. But not only did they come, they did their homework as well, because many times when you're trying to present about the dynamic of your community college system and the population of students that you serve, I know it said 4,000 on the slide when they showed Durham Tech, but that's your curriculum enrollment. That's not taking into consideration your continuing education enrollment. And so they really divest and really make sure that they are familiar and aware of what your institution does and engage with you on being solutions oriented to ensure that we're maximizing the effectiveness and the efficiency of not only our human capital, but the systems that we use in technology to accomplish those goals.
Yes, amen. So, when we went live in 2020, the platform has grown so much. You see all of your engagement in one place. You're not trying to take 5 different platforms and piece together an experience for students, and it makes relationship building easy, highly personalized with ease, and then the best end user experience, and all of it's on brand for your institution. So.
All of the above. And for us, it's certainly been being able to connect with either a prospective or current student or learner where they are in their journey and deliver a relevant, personalized engagement, contact with them. And then also, I'll add that as we attempt to bring all of our data into Element451 CRM to make even more personalized connections that are timely and relevant. Artists and the entire Element team have been such great partners and collaborators to make enhancements to make that happen. they seem just as invested in what we're doing and how we're doing it. And, you know, even though I might go months without speaking to artists, the next time I do, he seems to know exactly what we're up to somehow. So we appreciate that.
You can hang on to that. So thank you for sharing those successes. And you know, you've each had successes in your individual areas, but we all know for long-term success, you need to really get the entire campus mobilized. So easy to say, not always easy to do. So Jacquelyn, I was wondering if you could share with us some key factors that have contributed to just successful sort of campus buy-in.
Sure. Yes, change management, right? Lots of theories out there. A lot of them are focused on the kinds of things we experience every day, where they're very much mirrored to the grieving process, because it's about a mindset shift. Not when you get people aboard, it's much more than getting people to use a platform. It's changing their mindset about adopting the platform, the use of the platform, and really using data to push those decisions, showing how we're making strides, you know, showing the enrollment numbers finally moving up after, COVID and some of the challenges that we've encountered. I would say that for me, the change management piece, when we implemented the application, one of the things that we did, we made certain that all the stakeholders were at the table and invited everyone, open forums, listened a lot, and that isn't something that then ends. You really have to cultivate those relationships with your partners, showing the value, looking for individual programs perhaps that could be really successful. We used our health sciences programs as kind of a model for using the system, and they were, I didn't have to say a thing, they were the biggest cheerleaders for using the system, and now we're getting other programs into the system. So I would say that the change management piece sometimes can be the most difficult. Higher ed is very conservative in some ways and traditional. Everyone has experienced something with maybe IT, not our IT departments maybe not being as sophisticated as some of the things that we see here, and some of those challenges, really just transparency and communication, I feel are the key elements. No pun intended.
So Linnell, I was wondering if you could think back to maybe when you first started using Element, and what would be some advice or recommendations you would give to someone to just start that initiation into that sort of campus buy-in of Element451?
Yeah, so we embarked on the journey in 2019, and we switched CRMs. And we were not looking for another admission CRM. We announced it to the campus as a campus CRM. So we wanted to make sure everyone knew this was going to, transform the entire campus, and we wanted everybody to see that they had a role that they could engage with students throughout that student's journey. And we hosted sessions through the process of getting to learn about who we could potentially partner with, so they were a part of that process. And then once we launched, we held sessions to brag about all the amazing tools that was going to help them with connecting with potential Red Hawks, seeing them through to being on campus, whether it's in their residence halls or in the classroom, and then just that it was something that was going to give them tools that they hadn't seen before in another platform, So if you're not familiar with Element, like the conversations module, to tell a faculty member you can text a student without giving out your personal cell phone number, that's like an exciting moment. They're like, yes, okay, how can I get access to text students that way?
So let's switch gears a little bit. So each of you now have your respectable areas super jacked up and excited, but sort of the next phase is some of that cohesion. And Abe, I was just curious from your perspective, what's important for cohesion around technology in terms of using a new piece of technology on a campus?
So one of the things that is central to what we're accomplishing with implementation of this tool is understanding how it's applicable to every area of the college. When you think about the students that the community colleges serve, you have basic skills, students who are trying to complete a high school credential. You have continuing education students that go through an application process that's very different from a curriculum student that has to go through a portal. You need transcripts. So what it's helped us do is to, number one, recognize that all of our entry points into the institution are very unique regarding which student we're talking about. You add some complexities when you start talking about a dual-enrolled high school student, an adult learner. You have individuals that have different levels of literacy. So how do you create the most simplistic platform and opportunity and conduit for an enrollment process for a student, removing all of the unnecessary barriers? So from a college perspective, that forces us to think differently about our work. And so, great, you want to use this tool, but tell me, how is it simplifying the experience for the student, and how is it maximizing what you do to make your job more effective and more accountable? The data is also important. How are we capturing this information? I can't go to 10 different systems to pull data to give a report to my president when he's asking me about certain aspects of what we do. So this is kind of one area, one place that we can go to, look at our profiles of students, but also from a data perspective, be able to pull that information to get a better picture of what we're experiencing and what we're seeing.
Yeah, and I think you hit on an important part there of you had mentioned it's about the student. So, when you're trying to get cohesion around a new technology tool, you often just want to jump to the process and the nuts and bolts, but taking that moment to go, what is it that we're really trying to achieve, talking about it from how do we make it as simple and the best experience for the student? And that's a different way to frame sort of the discussion. So I was just curious, maybe Kristina, you could take this one a little bit. What are some common mistakes or recommendations you might have around that cohesion aspect of it?
Thank you. I don't know if they're common, but I know what we've experienced as some challenges were multiple groups using the tool, like marketing and student support, two separate groups in siloed ways, perhaps talking to the same set of students without the other knowing. I'm happy to say, I can't just leave that hanging. We never did that, but we were in danger of doing that. And so is it okay if I talk about what we did to overcome it? So really, and it's as simple as just communication, collaboration, and a shared understanding of the objectives, and putting encouraging everyone on our team to put themselves in the shoes of a prospective student or learner. To them, we are one entity, one organization. So to hear from two different groups of us and, on the same day, which almost happened in a different way, would have not been a unifying experience at all. And so I'm happy to say that what works for us, we're a relatively small team, but our marketing team acts as really the stewards of our subscription base and the users that we communicate with in Element. So, and every other unit is empowered to come up with their communication objectives and strategies, but we act as the hub for that to ensure that it is indeed unified, and where we need to, schedule things differently, consider a cadence, or consider, sending a more unified message, we do that.
Right, and if we think about cohesion in terms of not only the teams working together, there's also cohesion around the student journey, right? So what is it that we need to say at which time? What is timely? What is relevant across the student journey? The other piece is, during implementation, many of you had team captains, right? Somebody who was that forefront. We encourage you to continue to do that after you go live, right? And so if you have multiple areas, get that, call it your Element451 team and have those discussions. Okay, what are you doing? What are you seeing? What's data? A little bit of data governance. So that's kind of where I want to go a little bit next, is talking about data. So we all have infinite demands and finite resources, and you had just mentioned a thin staff. So Devin, I was wondering if you'd share with us how you all have used data and insights to really help focus in on your priorities.
Absolutely, and from a marketing perspective, we really, really loved the insights that we got from Element, because it showed us what was working and what was not working, what students were engaging with and what they were ignoring. So for instance, for us, we before Element, we had no real efficient way to text our students. And we saw through Element that the text click rates were so much higher, the engagement was so much higher with text than it was with email. So we started to build and really bolster our text messaging strategic plan, our communication plan. Another piece that it has helped us do is with our digital marketing strategy, connecting those pages and those unique forms, those personalized things that we could then put on ads and search engine marketing campaigns. So we were able to see what's resonating, what keywords are resonating, what things are actually bringing students in, how can we change this? So that data was very important there. And then I think specifically something that's kind of new that was really exciting for me was the introduction of Bolt Copilot. I don't know about any of you, but if you've ever tried to do A/B testing with any of your ads or any of your content, email, marketing, text messaging, it was always really difficult to write one that you thought was like, this is the best, and then I need to write another one because I want to see if this one works better or find another picture or something like that. So having that Bolt Copilot be able to take what you've written and then transform it into something else, have a completely different tone of voice, was something that has just been astronomically helpful in us seeing how messaging actually resonates with our students.
So how do you find the balance of not overreacting or underreacting to data? So if you try something new, do you have any tips or tricks on how long you kind of let something go besides before too quickly saying that isn't working? Just curious when you're getting that much data and insights, how do you balance actions based off of that data a little bit?
Definitely. So with a lot of things, I like to do, at least 3 months of a flight. For instance, we had one of our our outside advertising companies ask us to do some gas station advertising. We serve Stokes County, which is a rural area. Internet service is actually pretty sparse in that county, and so we realized that we have to have some actual means of marketing to folks without digital communication. So why not create these gas station ads that are on top of the gas station? They had a unique QR code. We put them at specific ones in Stokes County, and I was able to see, after 3 months, if anyone had submitted a form on any gas station pump. And the answer was no. So we decided, based on that data, that we were going to forego doing the gas station advertising anymore. Maybe we should do it again, and maybe in 6 months we'll try it again. I'm always willing to try things. I think that's important. Always be willing to try and test and do new things. But the data that Element has been able to give us has been able to really help us create those data-informed decisions.
So some of you had mentioned too about leadership. So usually if you're using the product in every day, right? You can hear, I can feel the energy and excitement. You want others to continue to feel that. So, Lynelle, I was wondering if you would share any insights on how Element users could use data, and what should they share with leadership? Like, what's valuable, right? You have so much information in there. What should you share with leadership on the campus that, helps continue the excitement around using the platform?
So I actually have an example from today. So the vice president that I report to sent me an email at 9 o'clock this morning, but I've been like so fully engaged, I haven't been checking my email, and I checked it about an hour ago, and she had asked for something by the end of the day. I was like, oh gosh, I left my laptop at the hotel room. So I'm like, it's a 10-minute walk, I'm gonna be up here for this panel, in an hour. And then I see an email from her from like 2 o'clock, and she's like, I went out to Element Insights, I found what I needed, never mind. And I was like, whoa. So just, giving them the power of the data at their fingertips when they need it, in the moment, and just having the year-over-year comparison data, that's what they want to know. How are we doing at this point of time compared to this point of time last year? And really segmenting it and looking at, performance of your events, your applications, your outreach that you're doing in communities. And I'm focusing on admissions because, that's my wheelhouse, but it's also making sure that all the funnels can be seen. So marketing, your recruitment, your admissions, your enrollment, your persistence, and bringing data from, there are going to be some things in maybe your student information system, right, your ERP system, and being able to pull it together. So with Element, Insights is stored within Snowflake. So you've got this data warehouse that can be pulled together with maybe other systems you're using to really be able to see the full funnel, right? So that is super, super important and very impactful. And we're monitoring things weekly. And so in this industry, we have to make sure that we can pivot really quickly. Resources are precious. Sometimes it's not saying, oh, we have to identify new money. It's, okay, well, we have to figure out what's not performing and then redistribute that money towards another tactic quickly.
Thank you. So, all right, so now we have like the whole story, right? We're humming along. Everyone's excited. The whole campus is excited. Everyone's got the data, transparency. And then, as much as we wish our team members to never leave, it's a real challenge for many of you in this room and in the higher ed space. So, Abe, I was wondering if you would share your thoughts on just how does staff turnover impact student success, not only the day-to-day work, but how is that, what's some of the impact that's having on student success?
Well, depending on what role we're specifically talking about, it can have severe consequences. If I have a front-facing employee that's engaged, committed, and extremely resourced by our students, the transition of that individual can be very detrimental to the type of student that we may be discussing. It all depends. If it's a first-generation student and that student doesn't know to navigate these spaces, and that student has connected within this individual but has not made connections with anybody else on campus, then we're talking about severe consequences for that one individual. Right. And for me, every single one is significantly important. So I think when we talk about the transition of employees, how do you create consistency? How do we have one system versus 5 or 6 that I need to learn to use to be able to support a student from a interest perspective status to not only enrolled, but now continuing that enrollment and persisting through up until they complete their goal, whichever one that may be. And I think that's where Element becomes a vital resource, because not only are we planning on using it from a lens of reviewing students through an onboarding and application process, but we're also looking at it from an early success perspective. So what are some metrics, what are some activities, what are some events that this student is engaging in, regardless of where they're connecting to resources on the campus? And then how do we create, or how do we better understand the data that comes along with that? If I have 100 students that come to the food pantry on a consistent basis throughout the semester, is that leading to a success outcome for that individual? Because we're meeting the basic need, we're invested in that resource, but there's no way formally for us to connect those resources to see if we're succeeding as it relates to the academic journey. So what I'm looking forward to is not only having consistent employees who can master one system or integrate all of these different channels of information from a student to help them be supportive, but it also will allow us to hopefully increase our ability to retain employees because they don't feel overwhelmed, they don't feel burnt out with all of these different things that they need to learn when they're transitioning or when they're being onboarded as a new employee. So to me, the simplified process as it relates to the student experience go hands in hand with the employee simplified process of understanding and learning the systems that we use to support students and their success.
Right, and it would allow the team member to actually spend more time with the student. You know, the technology should enable you to serve that mission first and foremost before getting bogged down in process. So, Jacquelyn, I was wondering if you had any best practices or tips that you have found with just dealing with staff turnover?
What, staff turnover?
Never? Really? Okay.
Never,
Anyone
never.
else?
A few, absolutely. And some of them are really difficult for us with limited resources. So how do we, without the resource of money to pay our staff more, which that's always the conversation, how do we increase the staff engagement, offer opportunities for staff members to grow, give them new projects, bring them to conferences like this, where they are able to experience meeting with other people that are doing similar things. There are lots of ways that you can really focus on your staff members. Remote work. A lot of people, especially people who are supporting systems like our CRMs, are people that really don't need to be sitting in an office looking at their computer all day. They can be at home looking at their computer all day. There are lots of ways that we can work toward happier staff members that stick around. I would say that in our workforce today, no matter how happy or how engaged your staff members are, there are other opportunities for growth for those staff members. If you're doing your job right as a manager of people, a leader of people, then you're growing your staff. And sometimes you grow them out of their role. And you have to be prepared for that. I would say, some of those less exciting things like succession planning, making certain that you have bench strength, some of those best practices are definitely needed all the time. I find that, like the bench strength piece, offering the opportunity for others on the team to learn some of these things really is a huge motivator for staff members.
Anyone else want to add to that one? Or I'm going to open it up because we have amazing folks up here to be able to answer your questions. So while you're thinking of your question, I had one submitted to me, so as Daniela and others are getting ready, I was wondering if one of you would be open, Josh asked us this question, to share your experience on how it was to work with the Element451 implementation team, and how does Element continue to support you after you've launched?
I have the microphone, so I'll go if that's okay. Just to put in my 2 cents, it was a great implementation. We purchased Element March 16th of 2020. You probably remember something that might have been happening at that time. And we had a deadline to meet of May 30th with our old CRM and wanting to replace it. And we met it with a couple weeks to spare. The implementation was incredibly easy. Not that we haven't, built on that like every week, building on what we had at that moment, but we were able to make that transition super supportive. And I can't say enough good things about the kind of experience. I work with other vendors in my career. The level of support that I get from Element is far and above anything that I've had from other vendors.
Pass it on this way. Did you want to add to that? Go ahead. Oh, sure.
Our implementation was great. It was everything that was just said. And also what I appreciated was Brendan at the time was our team captain for our implementation. And we were in the middle of lifting up multiple platforms, very small team. We're still small, but we were even smaller then. And we just had no time. You know, I always felt delinquent in doing the asynchronous trainings that I was supposed to be doing. But Brendan just met us where we were, which is what we use Element for with our learners and students. And when we had questions that maybe could have been answered if we'd just taken the darn training or watched the video, he walked us through and helped us. And then since then, at first I felt a little insecure not having a person, you know, to go to, but and we do have, you know, our data person on our team works closely with the data person at Element for some things that we're building. But when we've encountered, you know, challenges, there was an event page that I needed to build quickly and allow for both online and in-person RSVPing. I just went through the chat and I hoped for the best, you know, because usually chats, I don't really, you know, love them. And I had a lengthy back and forth with an engaged, knowledgeable person who then set up a Zoom meeting with me for the next morning, first thing, and found a workaround to what we were trying to do. So honestly, even using the chat function, we've been able to get as much or as little as we've needed depending on what our question is.
And you know, I'm honored to get to lead this team every day, so no, I did not plant this question. But I just do want to share that there, and put another plug, because Mallory mentioned this morning, but if you haven't joined the Element user community, please do that. It's a great place for you to just say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Does anyone have experience getting to talk to your peers? So that's one. We also do monthly trainings on different topics that are free for you to attend and come to, as well as, there's a robust help center. A lot of you are really great at using that and find your answer. If not, then, you can submit a ticket or a conversation and talk to us as well, too. So, there's already conversations happening in there today about sessions and things that we were at. So, all right, questions? Anyone? Daniela's ready.
I'm actually going to add a little depth to
you
the
bet.
question you just asked while we wait for someone. I think what's amazing about my experience with Element has been that when I had conversations with other vendors, they'll ask you, what do you need? And I say, I need one system. That's what I need. You're asking me what I need, I'm telling you what we need. In higher education, we need one system that's able to do all of these different things. Element was the only company that took me serious on that. All right, and I'm talking about I'm not going to name them because I'm not giving them this platform, but these are well-known, reputable, supposedly reputable vendors that many of our institutions are already in contract with. Not only did they take me serious, but artists came to my campus and we had a working group session. And we had the whiteboard, we had the chart paper, and I thought, well, I'm gonna have my team take notes. No, they did it all, and they really sat down and listened to what our concerns were, what we were trying to accomplish, but not leave it there, take it to the next level. So we went through some transitions of employees that kind of impacted us in a way that it kind of delayed our implementation. So in facing that obstacle, you need someone who's going to say, we're leveraging our resources, we're limited. how can I move this forward when I don't have the resources right now on my campus? So not only are they listening to what you need, but they're solutions oriented, and they provide that level of support and that guidance to say, hey, if you were thinking of doing this because this person was here, well, here's another option that we can offer you to connect you with a different type of resources. So not only are they catering to your need, listening to what you need, but they're actually helping you move the needle and be action-oriented in accomplishing your goals. I haven't experienced that with many technological vendors, because once they get your contract, you're tied in. I haven't seen that here. I always hear, what is it that, how's it going? What is it that you need? What is it that you want? How can we improve this? I think for me, the most compelling was to understand that the focus is on student success. I really sense that from every individual that I speak to at Element, regardless of what the conversation is about, that there's a focus and a dedication on student success. And I think having that principle and philosophy put into practice will take us a long way when we're trying to be solutions-oriented in such a time when we're strapped with resources and we're trying to be creative and innovative to be solutions-oriented from an employee perspective, but also from a student experience.
Daniela.
Hello. Okay, we got it. The mic finally worked. All right, well, thank you for all the input. We're looking at the front end of going into 451 here. So with all of you having hindsight, what would be the one thing that you'd do differently on your implementation now that you've had an opportunity to go through this?
I'll start. One of the things that we had to do is we had to reset to really take full advantage of what it is that we're trying to accomplish here. So right now, our college is implementing a strategic enrollment plan that has 4 basic principal pillars around it, and they touch different things. The element piece, we had to kind of make sure that we were clear on what we were trying to accomplish. And so it might be helpful for your internal team to determine and assess what is critical for you to have in place. Like, I have every department at the college saying, well, I want to use Element for this, I want to use Element for that. That's fantastic, but I need Element up and running in its basic form before we can get to that. So what is going to be your priority? Is it going to be just streamlining your admissions process and make that your priority, get that up and running, and then add the other pieces? That would be my recommendation, because it can be very overwhelming once you're trying to take into consideration all of the different aspects of what people want this system to do.
Do not take your current processes and say, I'm just going to make them work.
Okay, I got to clap for that one.
Yeah. Okay. So this platform has so many cool tools, right? There's such an amazing end user experience. There's automation. There's cool features. So think of how creatively, how are we going to change our processes to take advantage of these new amazing things that's going to make it not just great for our students, but for our staff and our faculty that are using the platform as well.
I have to ditto, ditto, ditto. I think that's the hardest thing, is to think differently. We all go to the comfort of the way that we've done things, rather than looking maybe holistically, the way that this kind of platform offers our even our processing work behind the scenes. We're very list-driven. Oh, we pulled a query and we have these 100 students that need this or that, rather than looking at the individual student within the system and empowering our staff to be cross-functionally trained to deliver all of the services that that student needs in the moment, through the admissions process, for instance. I think that thinking differently is going to be key.
Well, and that can be scary, if you're sitting around, especially if you're the one who's chosen it, right? And you're really excited and you're open to that. So sometimes just the way you phrase that, like you guys were talking about, okay, what is it that we're trying to do? Let's lead with that question, and then let's have Element451 implementation strategists show us the best way to do it. So that's just one way to sort of overcome that, because it's hard, right, to overcome that change of process that might have been in play for 50 years. So Devin, were you going to add something?
How many here are from a North Carolina community college? Okay, quite a few. So I think one of the first things, if I could go back in time and I could change something, we were the first community college in North Carolina to implement Element451. And there's this beautiful application feature that they have. Well, we were told with CFNC, it's impossible, we can't connect it, it won't work, it's not gonna happen. So we really dug our heels into Element without utilizing that crucial piece, that critical moment. We had this gap in our funnel. I'm here to tell you that is not true. You can do it. I don't know how it works because I'm the marketing guy. I'm not the CIO. But we had an amazing CIO come, Rebecca Anderson. Our friends at Wake Tech started the implementation, and we are learning from them. So we are getting that piece created. So if I could go back in time, I would utilize Element to its fullest potential. I would get all of the teams connected and not leave out those folks, like our missions and our record staff that we were like, doesn't work for you guys. So.
All right. Any other questions from our audience? Here's your chance. Well, I know they're all going to be here for at least the next day or two, so you'll have your opportunity to find them one-on-one tonight or somewhere around over the next 2 days. But I thought if you could describe, I didn't put this on your questions, so I gotta surprise you with one. If you could describe what Element451 has done for your institution or your area in one word, what would it be? And then we'll head over to our happy hour soon.
I wish I wasn't home. You want to go first?
Cohesion.
Transformational.
Maybe innovation.
I'm going to cheat. Engagement.
That was going to be mine, but I think I'll say success.
Awesome. All right, can we give a round of applause for our amazing panelists?